So after this break, let's continue the second panel this morning. So please regain your seats. And in this second panel, we're going to look at the business perspective to speed up the implementation of plans, everything that has to do with support, resources, technology, and funding. And this panel will be moderated by Francisco Repullo, President of AEBIG. And next, I'm going to mention the speakers and allow them to take their seats. So in this panel, we have Luis Girbes, industrial engineer, and he's currently the sales manager at B2B electricity and gas Spain at Total Energies, the powerful business group of the petrochemical sector and energy sector from France, based in 130 countries and more than 100,000 employees, who now aims to expand the biogas activity in our country. We also have Juan Ignacio Rey, Sales Development Network Director and New Business in NORTEGAS, and before he used to work at EDP. His career is linked to the natural gas world in the last few years with the promotion and implementation of projects in generation injection to the biomethane network. NORTEGAS is the second national company in the business of gas distribution with more than 8,100 kilometers of network and 1 million clients. Héctor Palacios is the third person as part of this panel. He's an environmental chemical engineer with more than 10 years of experience in the sector, and currently his position is green gas originator at ENGIE Spain. As an international group of French capital, ENGIE, with more than 160,000 employees all over the world, carries out activities in the fields of generation and distribution of electricity, natural gas, oil, and renewable energies. We also have Daniel Álvarez, with more than 20 years experience in investment banking and promoting renewable energies. He's currently the president of CATALANA BIOGÁS Siberia, a company backed up by Prisco Energy, senior renewables and biogas horse-writer Spain, focusing his current activity in developing biomethane plants, being experts in the treatment of waste, digestate, and optimization of biomethane production. And last, Laurence Molke, business graduate with more than 25 years experience. He has developed, built, and operated more than a dozen projects from scratch in Spain and Europe. He has founded, apart from other companies, CycleØ. He's the CEO of that leading European company focused on developing, building, and operating comprehensively biomethane projects in a small and medium scale. And here we have the moderator coming, and we hereby begin the second panel this morning. Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Francisco Repullo, President of AEBIG, the Spanish Association of Biogas, and I'm also partner in an engineering firm, so I have that twofold perspective, personal and professional. Hence this panel, where we're going to go to specifics to see how things are done on a daily basis. That's what we entitle it: support, resources, technology, and funding. The four legs of this table. So what do we have for biogas? And which technology do we have to do it? And which financial support do we have? We've seen that that's quite important. Where do we get the funding from? And all this needs to fit and make the plant work. So I'd like to begin, since we have more questions and they're all linked, because things do not work without each other. We need the four. So I'd like to ask Danielle first. Where would you begin, first of all, from the project perspective? Hello, Houston. Well, where do we begin? Usually, we begin with waste, at least in this sector. First, we need to know whether we have the source. That's the first basis of the project. After that, we have the location, how to develop the project locally, how to involve the local partner or the waste supplier in the project. And depending on the waste you have and the partners you have, the location you have, the project is getting shape, and we can speak about a biomethane project. So which percentage do you think you have in that search for feasible projects or non-feasible projects? Well, the reality, as we said earlier, is that there are people who are not from the sector and who are getting in the sector thinking that this is a business such as the renewable energies business they come from. But here, the resource is not wind or sun. The resource is the waste. So the deep knowledge of the waste you need for gas and the knowledge of what you're going to do with the resulting product, the digestate. And all that waste management is essential to be able to produce that gas and that methane. So we have found cases, because we have Banco Sabadell as a partner, and we have many agricultural clients, and they, when you explain to them how biogas works, and that they may have 50,000 ton incoming, but then you need to treat 45,000. 50% tells you it's waste management, and the 50% tells you it's an engineering and renewable energy project. That's in blunt terms. That's the way you see it. Well, we have two French companies here. So you have experience regarding what's done in France, and we spoke about it this morning. And when we go down to specifics and to see the daily work, is it the same thing having a plant in France as in Spain? No, not at all. Having a plant in France, for that we need the approval of administration to build that plant. Biomethane is strategic for France, while for Spain, it's something that currently, unfortunately, is just residual. So in France, we have more advantages, such as the injection point, and considering waste as an acceptable raw material for energy crops or intermediate crops, and then the knowledge of the whole value chain of French companies that have contributed a lot. Here in Spain, unfortunately, everything is yet to be built, and we have a big problem, which is that administration has virtually just started, and they're doing that very slowly and kind of lagging their feet or dragging their feet. Well, that's regarding the resources, and we have diverse resources here. You have citrics, things that in France are a bit less known. Well, we do have resources in Spain, not just for raw materials. We have more resources. We have a big amount of waste in comparison to other countries in our environment that we're not treating appropriately right now. Spain is the first country in the European Union, according to volume of waste, that ends up in a landfill. And we have the out of honor of being champions here. 50% of our waste ends up in a landfill. And that's a problem. But at the same time, biomethane has so many positive externalities that it's an advantage that not all European countries have. Because the waste market in Spain is not so stressed as in Denmark, the Netherlands, and in some cases in parts of countries such as in the north of Italy. So we do have resources that are very good in Spain, such as the raw materials. Our agricultural industry is very powerful. Other countries do not have it so powerful, though they try to take care of it. And here, the environmental sustainability side is not yet developed enough in our agro industry, even though it's the first industry in Spain. It's not the automobile sector, it's the agricultural sector. 1 out of 5 workers in the industrial area works in agro industry. And then we have reduced OPEX in comparison to other plants. Both OPEX and CAPEX, but mostly OPEX. Energy costs, at least in the future, are lower. We get income due to the treatment of waste in some cases, which is unfeasible in other countries. And in Spain, we have very good resources, but we kind of miss something essential, which is, I mean, the resources are essential, but not enough. To develop biomethane, we need a clear regulation from the administration. We need the support of administration to develop any sort of industrial plan and energy production methodology.
Exactly. I was going to ask you that question,
Yo por continuar, totalmente de acuerdo con lo que
French company,
comentaba
right?
Héctor,
Yes.
y por compartir un poco
To
nuestra
follow the same
experiencia,
line,
Total
to share
Energies
what Héctor said, in
actualmente
our
ya es un
experience.
actor activo
Right
y
now,
predominante
Actor
en el
is an
mercado
active,
francés.
active
En el
stakeholder in
2021,
France.
Total
In
Energies lo que
2021,
hizo
Total
para tener una
Energies
presencia importante en
gained
Francia
his
fue adquirir
important
una
presence
empresa
by
líder en
acquiring a
producción del
leading
biogás
company producing
como es
biogas,
Fonroche
such as
Biogás, y
Fongos
desde
Biogas.
entonces pues Total
Since
Energies
then,
está
Total
presente en toda la
Energy
cadena
is present
de valor del
throughout the
biogás,
value chain,
desde llegar a acuerdos
biogas
con los
value chains,
productores,
by
con
reaching
los
agreements with
ganaderos,
producers,
con los
livestock breeders,
productores agrarios en Francia,
and
operamos las
farmers.
plantas
So we operate
y siempre hablamos, ¿no?, de las claves del
So we
éxito
always
del
talk
modelo
about the
francés.
success key, French
Ahí
success key,
yo creo que no
French
tenemos que caer en la
model
comparación
success key.
fácil, son
Let's not just
escenarios
be
distintos,
simple,
han sido momentos
we
distintos
know
y
they
ahora
are
cada uno vive
different
su momento.
scenarios, different
Siempre se
timing.
habla del
So we
feed-in
always talk
tariff, ¿no?,
about
que
the
ha
feed-in
tenido Francia
tariff
en su
with
momento
France
y
for
que han
France,
ido
for France.
desarrollando y
And
adaptando
they
a
have
cada
been
momento.
developing and
Empezaron con
adapting,
un feed-in
cheaper. They
tariff
started with
para
a
todo tipo de
feed-in
instalación,
tariff
tanto
for any
biogás, luego
facilities,
potenciaron más el biometano.
biogas.
Desde el
Then they
2020
actually
ese feed-in
promoted
tariff lo
biomethane
están
more, since
potenciando más en
2020 the
instalaciones de
feed-in
menos de
tariff is
25
being more
gigavatios
promoted
hora de
for
producción
over
anual.
25
Ya no
megawatts
subvencionan, digamos, tanto a las instalaciones
plants.
grandes.
It seems like right now they're not
También han tenido un regulador, que es la
giving
Comisión
subsidy
de
to
Regulación de la
these
Energía,
large
que se han
scale
encargado de
plants.
poner
And
orden
now there
en
is
algo
an
tan difícil como es
institution who
zonificar
who
y
actually
un poco lo que es un
organize,
comentario general,
was in
¿no?
charge to
La
organize
dificultad
all these
de
sectors.
encontrar el mejor punto de conexión en la red.
In order to
Pues allí,
find,
digamos que esta
the
Comisión de
best
Regulación de la Energía
grid
se ha encargado
for,
de coordinar esto,
And
de
this
poner paz,
organization
en cierto
is
modo,
in
entre las
charge to
distribuidoras,
coordinate
para
this
que
and to
no haya
make,
situaciones
these
incómodas. Han
companies,
tenido
these
incluso el
associations
gobierno
to come
francés ha
together
subvencionado, ¿no?, el
easier.
enganche a la red de distribución. Todo esto, pues bueno,
all
lo
of
han hecho
this,
bien.
they did it right. Okay,
Y nosotros
so
ahora vivimos
right
otro
now,
momento.
we are in a
Tenemos
different
un
moment,
potencial
and
enorme.
our potential
Yo creo
is
que una de las
huge.
cosas
And one
buenas
of
que
the
tenemos
things,
en
the
España
good things
es que
that we
tenemos
have in
un lienzo en
Spain is
blanco.
that
Mira, estamos todos aquí
we,
hoy para
right now,
hablar
we
de
started from
desarrollar,
scratch.
y yo creo que
So
es
we
muy
are
bueno que
here
estemos todos
to
aquí
talk
muy
about
activos, ¿no?,
developing,
y
and
tratando
it's
de
good
buscar
thing that we are
acuerdos entre
very
todos para
active and
desarrollar
we
estas
try to
plantas.
to reach agreements in order to develop these plans.
Materias primas.
So we know about raw material, everything you're saying, but now we need to inject it to the grid. So since that in this flourishing time, I think there is a bubble from my point of view. Anyway, many people want to get involved or to be inside in the grid. Actually, every day, they actually receive 70 requests daily. Like everybody wants to be injection. So how do we handle this? Well, this is a great panel here today. My colleagues, congratulations for the Congress is amazing. The organization is amazing. I'm here as a producer with NORTEGAS branch. NORTEGAS is the second gas producer in Spain with the distributor serving Asturias, Cantabria, and Basque Country. Our main stakeholder is the JB Morgan Investment Fund, established as a strategic main strategy to work in the biomethane production. So in order to be an actor and long term, and also to actually be actually truthful, for the gas producing gas pipeline, over 80,000 kilometers of gas pipeline with a quality which is great. And this is an energy service that is essential for the country. So we cannot, actually
para acabar con él, pero sin embargo, sumarlo,
fossil
¿no?
gas
Cobrarlo es
is
fundamental
necessary,
y
still
nosotros estamos
necessary,
convencidos de la
but
descarbonización,
we
porque como
cannot
todos aquí.
convince of decarbonization as anybody here,
Decías,
as everybody here. So
la botella está medio llena, ¿no? No vamos a verla
let's
vacía tampoco.
be,
El
let's
problema
not
que tiene
be so negative,
la
but
inyección
positive.
de las
The
redes es que
problem of
básicamente
the
las
grid
redes no están
injection
diseñadas
is that grids are not
en su
designed
origen para eso, ¿no? Están
originally
diseñadas
for
para
this
sacar el
purpose,
gas, ¿no? En
like
los
for
consumidores
the
y no
gas
tanto para su inyección.
consumers, not for the injection,
Entonces ahora,
but
bueno,
for
es
the
un
consumers'
paradigma esto
gas.
que
So
hay que cambiar. Normalmente antes se
usually,
dejó en la ponencia inicial
at the first
de apertura
presentation,
que
in the first
ya sabemos que los
presentation,
residuos pues, no suelen estar en los puntos de
we
más consumo
heard
de gas,
that sometimes
y ahí
waste
hay,
are not the
choque,
best
¿no? Hay que
gas
extender
consumption
redes. En
sites.
muchos casos vamos
So we
a
need to extend
conectarnos porque el residuo no lo
grids.
vamos a mover, lo vamos a
So
mover
we
lo menos
need to
posible, ¿no?
connect ourselves
Todos
because
sabemos
we
que eso
cannot
es
move the
lo que
waste.
más
We
puede
cannot
costar
change
la
the
logística,
side of the
y lo que tenemos que mover
waste.
es el
So
gas.
perhaps
Yo creo que por
logistics
tuberías es
is
el
expensive.
movimiento
So we
lógico,
need
es
to
el más
change,
económico,
the
insisto,
pipelines.
utilizando una batería de
Again, we
energía
need to
que de la que
use,
disponemos en España, que es
energy
fundamental.
that we have available in Spain.
El diseño no
So,
está preparado para esto
the
y
design
aquí
is
surgen los
not
problemas.
ready
Pues
for
queremos
this, and
inyectar
that's why
nuestras plantas,
we
queremos
have
que
these
produzcan
problems,
24 horas,
let's say
365 va a
that
ser
we
posible,
want,
y
our
lógicamente
plants to
esos
produce
caudales
within
que queremos que
24
sean
hours,
estables, pues en la
365
red
days
no siempre la demanda va a ser
a
así.
year, but
Evidentemente en
sometimes,
redes que no estén ligadas a grandes poblaciones, a grandes consumos industriales,
networks,
pues nos vamos a encontrar
those
con problemas.
places where
Y
networks
esto
are not
pues, bueno,
linked to
el
this
compañero total lo comentaba, en
big
Francia
industrial project,
pues bueno,
that
se
would be a
hizo
problem.
con bastante
Our colleague in
racionalidad,
France,
pues un estudio
explained
previo de
that,
dónde
how
estaba el
rational
potencial,
it
cómo
was,
estaban las
the
redes, y
previous
se diseñó.
study
Aquí,
and
bueno,
how
pues esto
was
yo
the
creo que
design
llegará, ¿no?
worked.
Porque
I think this will
indudablemente,
be applied
también
here
se
as
comentó
well.
antes, hay un montón de peticiones
As
de
I said,
inyección
there
por
are
parte de
so
todos
many
los
requests,
productores a las
injection
redes,
requests
y
by
cabe todo
producers
ese
to the
gas y
grid. So
probablemente
perhaps not, the
quepa
gas
en
cannot
las tuberías más
be.
próximas, ¿no? Con lo cual hará falta
So
pues,
there
hacer
is.
muchas
We
inversiones
need more investment
que
to
comparativamente a lo que,
and
a que tiene la red
comparing to what the
su coste,
grid
y su
has,
coste
and
regulatorio anual
the
es muy poco, es muy
annual
bajito, pero habrá que
cost
hacer
is
esas
not too
extensiones,
much, but we need
habrá que hacer
extensions.
reverse flow, que antes
We
también se
need
comentó,
to
sistemas que pasen el gas de las tuberías de menos a más
build,
presión,
their
y todo eso,
flow, the
pues si se quiere hacer
flow,
a cuenta de los productores de cada planta,
with
pues esto va a
this,
ser también un desafío
this
muy
will
gordo
be
y
a challenge, a
realmente
big
sin salida.
challenge for everybody.
Pero aparte de esa capacidad de
So
generar
apart
redes,
from that
esa
capacity,
resiliencia y tal,
the
hay también el tema
residents,
de capilaridad.
we also talk about
La red pasa por
capillarity
donde pasa.
because the
aquí
the
parece
grid
ser que
goes
residuos
to
se
different
esparcen por todas
places
partes.
already established. It seems
Entonces,
that waste
ahí
are
entramos
everywhere in
detrás
Spain.
del gato o el gato
So
detrás de la
how we
morcilla,
can do
por
it?
decirlo en términos muy coloquiales, claro. ¿Qué pasa cuando en un sitio hay
What
una gran
happens
concentración?
when there is a
Detrás de
big
las redes
concentration?
gasistas que ampliar su capilaridad,
Perhaps
o tenemos que ir a
the
un modelo
gas
adelante de las
producers might have
Habrá
to
que usar todo lo que
increase the
tecnológicamente esté al
capillarity.
alcance. Y,
Well,
por
we
supuesto,
will have
también
to
el
use,
biogenial,
any
¿no? que es una opción
available
que tenemos,
technology,
aunque yo
any
creo que
available
en términos de
resources.
coste
But
también
when it comes to
y
cost,
medioambientalmente,
and from the
no
environmental
debería
point
ser
of view,
no deberíamos de primarlo,
we
¿no?
shouldn't,
Frente a la inyección en
take
tubo,
this as a
que insisto, es
priority,
el de menor coste,
I
el que
mean,
nos va a hacer llegar el gas
the
a todos los
injection, tube
puntos de
injection is
consumo,
the less
ojo, sin tener que
expensive
hacer ninguna inversión
without in
en los
making
puntos de
any
consumo, que eso
investment
es
at
fundamental cuando hablamos de
the
una energía renovable,
construction
que el
sites.
usuario no lo va a notar.
This is a
En
renewable
cambio, no es
energy
simplemente
that the consumer
pues,
will not
como la
notice,
electricidad verde,
as the
va a poder
green
llegar igualmente.
power, that
Yo creo que hay que
the reaches
aprovecharlo y por
consumers
supuesto sí
also,
quedará pues,
So we need to take
en
advantage
más
of this, and
circunstancia
of course,
el gasoducto virtual,
the
que al final
virtual
no
gas
se mueve mucho
pipeline
gas,
remains,
el
the
gas comprimido,
non-much gas
desgraciadamente la energía que transportas es
compressed
pequeña, y
gas
luego
is
el
moving
biogenial,
because the
sobre todo
energy
cuando
is
se
not too
destine
much.
a
And
movilidad.
also the GNL, when it's used as mobility for mobility purpose.
Tienes la planta calentita todavía recién hecha. Esta mañana has hablado aquí mucho
You talk about this morning. You talked
el
about
dilema entre
the dilemma
planta
between
centralizada,
micro plant,
planta más
centralized
pequeña,
micro plant, or plants
pequeña.
closer
Claro,
to the
como ahora hay
waste.
muchos
Because
nuevos
now
llegados a
there
este
are so
sector,
many
pues los
newcomers.
inversores
investors, use Excel sheet, apply, the scale micronomy as big as the plant, the less I have to invest per kilowatts. Okay, so capex is better. But there are other, limits. And then regarding the qualitative part, how can I do this? What should I do? How logistics works? Another type of problems that I might have to face, because the logistics, multiplies, many times. So apart from the Excel plan sheet, we have a smaller plan, but the smaller plan needs to be profitable. So you are the expert here, so please explain to us. Thank you to the public for being here.
Bueno, mire,
listening to
desde
us.
CycleØ nosotros somos
We
promotores
are
integrados de
producers
proyectos
integrated in
de un
projects
tamaño pequeño
of a
y
small
mediano
size, a
destinados al
medium
sector
size,
agroalimentario.
agri-food
Y es como usted
sector.
dice,
As you
súper
said,
complicado para
it's very
sacar
complicated for
rentabilidad para
us
los
to be
proyectos
profitable, to have
con el
projects,
apoyo
profitable
institucional y
projects from the institutional point, and
la
also
variabilidad que existe
the
hoy en día para ese
variability
tipo de
that
proyectos.
is today
Nosotros estamos apostando
that
más
is
para un
experienced today.
modelo
We are
deslocalizado de
committed
las
to
plantas.
the
Es decir, que nosotros creemos que es
localization model
mejor
because we
ubicar la
think
planta
it's
de
better
biometano
to
más
install
cerca
the
a
plant,
la zona de los
biomethane plant,
desechos,
close
porque
to
es
the
importante
waste, closer to the
compartir,
waste, because it is
bueno, los
important to share
beneficios
the
y
benefits
jugar un rol
and
como
to
un
play
buen
a
vecino.
role
Si
as a
nosotros
good
estamos jugando
neighbor.
un
If
rol
we are playing a
positivo
role, positive role,
paliando un poco
by
todo el desafío con la despoblación que existe en los zonas rurales.
changing things,
Pero para que salgan
But
los números hay que ser
to be
hiper
profitable,
eficiente
we
y
need to
hiper
be
competitivo.
very efficient, very
Y una de las
competitive.
pequeñas ventajas que
One of the
nosotros tenemos al
small
CycleØ es a
advantages
través
that
de
we
nuestra
have
sucursal,
is
que
that
es
we have
FNX,
a
que
branch
está
which is
ubicado en el País Vasco,
NX,
en
which is
Ardea.
at the Basque
Nosotros
Country.
estamos fabricando
So
nuestro
we are
propio
manufacturing
equipo,
our own equipment
equipos
at the
modulares,
branch,
con
modular
un equipo
equipment
de ingenieros
with a
y de
team of
fabricación
engineers
expertos
and
en todo
experts in
aspecto
manufacturing
de purificación de
and
gases,
the purification of
liquefacción
gases,
de
liquefaction,
biometano, pero también
liquefying
del
biomethane,
comprimido.
but also the
Y
compressed
es
gas.
súper importante que
So it's
nosotros
very
podamos
important
ya
for
probar
us to
en
test
forma modular
already, the modular way,
todo el equipo antes de
our
enviarlo
equipment
al sitio
before
para
it
ahorrar
is sent,
costes,
delivered
no
to the
solamente
site so
de
that
la
we can
puesta en
save
marcha
some
de la
costs,
planta,
not only the
pero también el
commissioning of the
montaje.
plant, but also
Es decir,
the
que
assembly.
hoy en día para los
So for
pequeños
us,
y
for the
medianas
small
plantas
and
hay que
medium
tener un
sized
punto de
plants,
perspectiva
we
que no
need
es
to have a
cortoplacista,
perspective which is
hay que
not
pensar a
short-term
medio largo plazo,
perspective, but
hay que ser
a
ligero,
medium
hay que
and
moverse
long term.
rápidamente
We
y
need
hay
to
que
be
tener
agile
confianza
and
que
to
eventualmente
speed
el
up,
mercado va a
and
desarrollar
to
de
see
una forma
how the market
positiva para
is,
este
so
tipo de
that
planta.
we have a positive aspect for this type of plant.
No, yo quería hacer
Sí, sí,
un
sí.
apunte
Perspective,
porque
sorry.
hablamos de claves
We're talking about
para
keys
desarrollar el
in
biogás,
order to
cuál es la
develop
fórmula
biogas.
perfecta.
What is
Yo
the
creo que
perfect
estaremos todos de
formula?
acuerdo,
But I'm
si
sure
no me
they will
corregís, que
agree.
es que aquí
If I'm not wrong,
la cuestión es que
the
estos no
question
son
here
paneles
is that
fotovoltaicos,
these are
no
not
son aerogeneradores,
photovoltaic
aquí cada
solar
proyecto
panels,
tiene su vida
because
propia,
each
¿no? Y en
project,
un proyecto
has its own life.
tendremos
So
una materia
perhaps
prima
we
muy
might
buena,
have
una
a good
ubicación, pero no
equipment
tendremos
for
la red
one
cercana, ¿no?
project
Y
in a
tendremos
good
que
place,
ser
but not,
capaces
but
de
the closer,
tener una mente abierta, ¿no?
the grid is not
y
closed. So we
encontrar
need to have an
la
open
mejor
mind
solución
in order to
para cada
find the
proyecto.
best
Yo
solution
creo
for
que
each project.
es una
So
dificultad que
this
tiene
is
el sector,
a
pero al mismo
difficulty
tiempo
for the sector, of course,
es un
but at the same
reto
time it's a challenge,
interesante, ¿no?
very
Para todos
interesting
nosotros,
challenge for all of
el
us.
ser capaces de
The
encontrar
fact of,
soluciones, ¿no? Y si
finding
no tenemos una red
solutions,
cercana,
but if we don't have
pues,
a close
bueno,
grid,
intentaremos siempre
we will
conectarnos
try
a la
to
red y si es de
connect to the
NORTEGAS,
grid,
mejor, pero bueno,
to
si
the
no,
grid,
utilizaremos las
to
cisternas y
use,
si no,
the
el gas natural
deposit
comprimido,
of the
pero la
compressed
cuestión es,
gas, natural
yo creo
gas.
que una de las claves
So one of
sería
the
valorar
keys
todo
is
el
to
proyecto en su
valorize
conjunto, ¿no?
the whole
Las empresas
project
energéticas tendemos a
together,
valorar más
because
el
energy
resultado,
companies,
¿no? El
tend
gas
to
renovable,
valorize
pero
the
el
results, the
digestato
outcomes.
tiene
But
un
what
peso
about
muy
the
importante, hay
digest
que
state
valorar
has
el
a good
digestato,
weight,
pero
a good, it's very
oye, las
important.
garantías de origen,
What
pues
about
también hay
the
que poner en
origin
valor el
guarantees,
CO2,
warranties, what about
las plantas de biogás son
CO2?
un sumidero de CO2,
Biogas
vamos a poner en valor
plants,
también el CO2.
are
Yo
as,
creo que si somos capaces de
filled
poner en
with
valor
CO2,
todo
So
lo que
let's just
conlleva un
valorize,
proyecto de biogás,
let's just
nos hará
add the
más
value to the
competitivos,
whole
¿no? Y seremos
project so that
capaces
we
de
can be more
desarrollar mejor
competitive and
los
better
proyectos.
develop, the
Sí,
projects.
yo
Yes.
siguiendo la línea de lo que dices, Efectivamente, los
in,
proyectos de
in line
gas
with this,
yo llevo en esto
gas
desde
project,
el año 2006-2007.
of
No lo he visto
2006,
nunca, no sé cuáles.
2007.
O
I
sea,
didn't see
aparentemente,
two projects, similar
muchos, como
projects.
decía
Or
Sebastián
it-
Laurence anterior,
as
nuevos
the other
actores
said
en
before,
este sector,
there are different
pues
stakeholders
piensan que esto
involved
es
in
como
this
la
sector,
fotovoltaica,
and they think
que es
this is
replicable.
like
Aquí
the
no hay nada
photovoltaic
replicable. Cada planta hay que
energy that
hacerla
is
a
replicated,
medida
can be
de
replicated.
todos
No
los
way,
actores que
this cannot be
son
replicated. It
países,
has to be
que hay que
tailor-made.
saber encajar. y
So
que
we need to make some
Entonces, claro,
adaptations,
ese puzzle que tenemos que
separately.
hacer
So
las ingenierías,
based on
todos
this
estamos
puzzle,
haciendo,
the engineers have
hay
to
una
solve,
pata que le faltaba
there
algo,
is
como he dicho antes, que
a
es
pillar
Pablo
that
Díaz.
is missing
La pata que le
here.
faltaba algo es la
The
banca.
pillar is, the
Es
banks,
que con
banks,
todo ese
right?
puzzle hay que sentarse,
Because we need to sit
llegamos a
down,
apalancamiento
with
tecnológico
the
de
banks
tenemos que explicárselo a
and
alguien,
explain
que
to
lo primero que
them.
le tenemos que
And
explicar
the
es
first thing we
qué
have
es
to explain to them is what is
Ellos
biogas,
piensan que es
because
una cosa que
some
explota,
of
que
them
huele,
think there is
y que es
something that
peligrosísimo.
explodes,
Pero
that
explicarles a un
blows,
banco
and
es
it's very
algo que no
dangerous,
es fácil.
etc. So
Vale,
it's not
que
easy to
¿quién
explain
quiere,
it
quién
to
quiere
bank
testificar como banco que queda
managers,
contestado?
right? Please, anybody wants to answer this?
No,
No.
verdaderamente no es fácil.
Really, it's not easy. I agree with
No
you.
obstante,
Uh,
a ver,
Nevertheless,
como, igual que se financia
as it happens with the
vertederos,
financing
igual que
of
se financia,
landfills,
parques
eólicos,
eólicos,
wind power
yo como vengo del sector renovable, yo me acuerdo
orchards,
cuando
and
estaban
because
los
I come
primeros
from the
polígonos,
renewable
los parques
sector,
fotovoltaicos,
and I remember
te
at
venía a
the
hacer una
beginning,
due diligence, un bufete de abogados,
I used to work with
empezaban en el
lawyers,
sector y le tenías que explicar
and I had to explain to
digamos,
them
cada cosa.
what each thing was.
Creo que en el biometano estamos
So I think that we are both things the same, So the feeling is that
por ejemplo, para estructurar la financiación,
in order to
una
structure
planta,
the
darle
plant,
forma,
in order to give shape to this structure of financing, how the
pues
bank
tienes
was,
que
we
adaptar
need to adapt
todos
all
los players que hay
the players
envueltos en
involved
un proyecto de
in
biometano, que
the
son varios,
biomethane
y
project, which are
hacer que todo eso
many,
sea un
and make
conjunto
this
que sea atractivo
a
para
set attractive,
Entonces,
appealing
todo eso,
service set,
claro,
whole.
requiere, pues,
So that requires
desde lo que hablábamos al
some
principio,
efforts in
primero
terms
que
of
tengamos la mezcla,
having the
que
mixture, the
tengamos la
blend,
tecnología,
the
que
combination,
tengamos
then
la
the
venta
technology, the
de ese
sales
gas,
of
que
that gas,
tengamos a su vez también
then at the same
la venta de
time,
esos
the sales of those
certificados o
certificates
garantías
of
y que, pues,
guarantees.
bueno, aprovechamos la coyuntura para animar a
So
los socios de gas y al gobierno para que
let's
tengan
take advantage and
temas, ¿vale?
tell the
Necesitamos
government
también
to
que la
help us.
administración, pues,
Also, we need the
entienda
administration
concepto de
to
lo que es una planta de biogás
understand what is
metano.
biogas,
Hemos visto por
biomethane plant
recientemente IDAE
concept.
sacó unas subvenciones para
The
cogeneración,
IDAI
bueno, que va
just
cumpliendo
recently
bien,
launched,
pero para
co-financing
los tiempos
of
que vivimos ahora es más complicado, hay
project
que adaptarse, hay que ir
subsidies,
sumando
but
las
I know it's a
administraciones,
little bit more
porque siempre ha
complicated
pasado,
because
¿no?
we
Que la
need to
empresa va más
explain
deprisa que la
to
administración.
administration
Entonces, a
because
veces
it
simplemente
always
es cuestión
happens,
de empezar a explicar.
companies
Entonces,
usually go
todos esos
faster than the
factores
administration.
son los que
So
van a
all
hacer que un
these
proyecto
factors will
sea
make
Yo creo que todas las empresas que
projects to
estamos
be
aquí tenemos proyectos
financed.
financiables.
So I believe all
Yo creo
companies here have
de hecho, animo a que
projects that can
vengáis
be
al banco
financed. So
para conocer.
I invite you to go to the bank.
Pero creo que,
But
o sea, ese,
That
vamos a decir, ese muñeco que tenemos que armar, ese contrato de PC,
contract,
algunos vienen a los oye, hay que hacer el contrato de PC, o
the
esos
PC
acuerdos de
contract or
suministro, cómo
those
involucro
supplying
al gestor de residuos, al
agreements.
productor, dentro de la,
How can I,
del
for
proyecto,
example, how
dentro
can
de la
I
sociedad
get the
vínculo,
producer being,
todo eso, esos
engaged?
contratos de
Anyway,
futuros de PPA,
this
porque claro, ahora
future
mismo muchos no hay, me encantaría poder
contracts,
discutir más con vosotros de
I would
voy a
like
vender
to
tantas telas,
explain
bueno,
to you,
te los
a little
venderé
bit further, about selling headers.
Todo eso
All of that
es lo que creo que tenemos
is what I
que, sobre
think,
todo las empresas,
especially
también,
companies,
evidentemente, informar a la administración, pero entre las
also
empresas,
administrations, companies
porque
should
realmente
collaborate
una tontería como
with each other,
un
because
project
something as
finance
silly as a
de una
finance
planta de
project
biometano,
of a
o sea,
biomethane plant
es una cosa que tendríamos
is
que elaborar todos
something that we need
sobre todo
to
empresas como Palacios,
develop
como la
together,
nuestra.
especially
Y es un
companies
tema
like
que lo tenemos
yours.
que hacer,
This
que
is
hacer todos
something that we
conjuntamente
need to
para que podamos
do
encontrar
together
una
in
fórmula
order to
para que
find
eso
a
luego se
formula
convierta, pues, en
that
algo replicable.
later
Y para,
becomes
de esa
later
manera,
can be
que los
replicated,
proyectos tengan
and
financiación
therefore
y no haya que ir a
projects
full
can be
equity como tenéis que ir
financed
ahora,
instead of being to
hay que ir a
other
la
reach
planta vale
other
12 millones
projects.
o 11 millones. ¿Qué es lo que pasaba al principio de
that,
las renovables?
you
Pero
know,
nosotros creemos que en un
formerly,
periodo de
with
tiempo
renewables,
tenemos que
you
conseguir
needed
que esos
the whole
tengan la
amount,
solidez y ya
in
cuando
order
ya se
to
planteen ya los tengamos
install
un poco en ese
the
sentido,
plant.
aunque son
So
todos diferentes,
anyway,
pero son un
even
poco
if
más
all the
financiablemente
projects
para
are
mejorar,
different,
¿no? Un
but
poquito
they can be
lo que estamos
actually
estudiando dentro de los
considered
factores
from
ahí,
the
dentro
financing
de
point of
cuando
view
hablamos
as
con los compañeros de diferentes
something
departamentos del banco para
similar.
explicarles
So,
qué es el biometano,
and
¿no?
when you
Porque
go to the
también
bank
dentro
in order to explain
de
what
la banca,
biomethane
pues vamos
is,
explicando,
we
porque
need to
el
explain it
concepto
clearly because
siempre
perhaps
se
the
lo digo, ¿no? Que es
concept,
el biogás, ¿no? Pero es un poco el biogás
might be
que las
confusing,
preguntas siempre que te hace
but
el
the
financiero son
questions
las
are
mismas,
more or
o
less
sea,
the same,
ya la sabéis, ¿no? Pero tengo BPA,
So,
no tengo BPA.
do I have
Una serie de
BPA
parámetros,
or
pero el
not?
residuo lo tiene
Anyway,
garantizado. Eso es
they
un poquito
might ask you, for example,
creo yo,
is there
la
waste
clave de
guarantee
que tengamos
assured,
éxito todos.
So this is
A
a
mí me
key
gustaría,
for the success for
cogiendo también
everybody.
el hilo inicial que decías, las
Uh,
claves, ¿no? Que es como se llama
Talking
esta
about the
mesa de debate.
keys,
Pero hay una clave
I think there is one
que es
key
además
which
el
is
origen.
also the
Ni
origin,
siquiera los residuos que antes se
not
decía que
even
empezar.
the
No.
waste.
Yo creo que lo
Residues.
primero que nos
I
hace
think the
falta es
first
una
thing
clave
we
de
need
desarrollo y lo ha
is a
dicho muy bien en
development
en
key,
la ponencia
something
inaugural
that the
pues, el compañero
opening
francés, el vicepresidente,
presentation
es la concienciación.
mentioned, the
Aquí
awareness.
como todos
Awareness
estamos aquí,
raising,
antes
right?
salió la palabra
I
burbuja
mean,
y es un poco,
you mentioned
un poco
before,
fea, ¿no? Pero
you said the
estamos
word bubble.
realmente
But
muchos
again,
actores empeñados en que
here
esto
we
salga
are
adelante,
many actors,
pero
stakeholders that are
realmente
committed to make
hay
this
comunidades
work.
autónomas que ya
But there
están
are
dando un
some
apoyo
regions in
explícito
Spain
y
that
por
are
el mismo
already,
castellano, pues, hoy y mañana hay unas jornadas
supporting
también de apoyo
this,
para
for
explicarnos
example,
cómo hay
in
que tramitar
Castilla
los
y León, there are
proyectos y demás.
some
Y hay muchas comunidades autónomas que
conference
están en esa
tomorrow,
senda.
and many other
No toda la
regions that are
administración a veces
the
está
same
igual, pero lo que es
direction, following the same
fundamental es la
direction.
concienciación
The main thing
desde la
is
administración
awareness,
a que lo que
right?
estamos haciendo es
Raising the
algo muy
awareness,
beneficioso que está
from
absolutamente
by the
lleno de
administration,
cuestiones positivas.
to see the
Evidentemente que
positive
controlar que las cosas
questions,
se hagan
but
bien
also,
para que no
to
generemos
control,
ninguna molestia o las menos posibles
monitoring, the
que
different
tiene cualquier
process,
actividad industrial,
everything
la
is
logística y
right,
demás que se decía.
logistics,
Pero yo creo
etc.
que es una clave
So I
fundamental,
think this is a
concienciar
main
y si no
key,
estamos
the raise
muertos, porque
awareness,
ya estamos viendo en la
because
prensa
we can see,
que cuatro
the
plataformas
newspapers,
montar un proyecto, antes lo decía Daniel,
Daniel
es muy
said
complicado. Aquí
before, it's very
no es que
difficult
seamos
to
advenedizos, es
actually
que esto es una
implement a
conjunción de
project.
4 o
Do
5
not
mundos. El
newcomers,
gasista que yo
because
conozco,
we
muy
need to
pequeñito, el
combine different
biológico,
worlds, the
toda la
gas
tecnología
producers,
que hay de la
technology,
upgrading,
biology,
ganadería, agricultura,
livestock,
residuos,
agriculture,
fertilizantes.
waste,
Esto es
fertilizers.
un desafío
So this is a
magnífico,
great
¿no? Para
challenge
todos
for
nosotros.
everybody.
Y desde luego, como
And
no
of
haya
course,
una conciencia
we
y nos
need to
dejemos
raise
arrollar
awareness
por
instead
cualquier
of
plataforma que
just
se monte y
letting
bueno, hay que
others
dar mucho apoyo
to
unos a otros. Al
uh,
principio esto no
pushing
va a ser
us
una
away.
competición, sino va a ser
This is not a
intentar ayudarnos a
competition, but this
que
is
cualquier
about
proyecto
helping each
salga porque
other, so
ayudará
all the
a que el
projects
siguiente venga
go forward
y así sea
and
una
to
cadena.
help others, and a
Hay
way
un
to
punto
help
que a mí
others
me
that
creo que
come
es una de las
in the
piezas
future.
débiles, que es muy
And
difícil
this,
de afianzar. Cuando hablamos de los
let's say, a
recursos,
weakness,
esta mañana
which is
nuestro
the
colega francés decía
financing,
que en Francia es como en España,
our
el
colleague from
80%
France
del
used to say
potencial
that the
está en el
80% of
sector
the
agrícola y
potential
ganadero.
is found at
Los
the
astilleros
livestock
mucho
and
menos,
farming
las agriculturas
sector,
mucho menos.
because
Y claro,
water
aquí nos
treatment
encontramos con
plants
que hay que
and
afianzar el
landfills
recurso.
are not so important. So
Afianzar
we
el
need
recurso en
to
el sector
actually
agroganadero.
consolidate the resources,
No es que no quieran, pero es
but
que en este
it's not
país
about that they
la
don't want,
población
livestock
agroganadera
breeders or
ganadero y
farmers
agricultor
are not willing
es una
to.
población bastante
This
envejecida.
population is quite aged.
Los hijos, muchos de quienes se
Their
llevan las vacas,
children
se
do
van a
not
hacer un
want
máster
to
a Londres.
continue with
Entonces, por
raising
mucha
cows.
voluntad que haya,
So, despite
afianzar durante 12,
all
15 años
this, we
ese
cannot
aprovisionamiento de
consolidate,
residuos,
that
es que no te lo pueden
waste.
garantizar, porque dice, yo es que
We
en 5
not
años
guarantee
jubilo
the
y las
waste
vacas o
because
las llevo al matadero o las llevo a una
because
macrogranja. Cuando van a una macroestablo,
when they go to a
entonces nos encontramos con
macro
los
farm,
ecologistas que dicen,
colleagues
macroestablos no,
said,
esto es
we
perjudicial.
don't want that, this
Entonces,
is damaging.
afianzar
So,
la materia prima
to
agroganadera, que es la
consolidate,
una de las
the
claves de
waste
este
from
país, que está muy
the
potenciado.
livestock and
Yo creo
farms
que el reto que tenemos ahora es
is a
cómo
challenge.
poder
How can we
asegurarnos la materia prima.
guarantee the raw material?
¿Alguien
That's
tiene alguna idea
our
de qué
challenge.
aportar?
Do you have the solution,
Bueno,
an answer?
asegurar la materia prima,
To guarantee the raw material is,
como en todas las industrias,
as it happens with
en la
any other
industria
industry,
agroganadera, lo que
the
está habiendo
agro
es una
farming
concentración cada
industry,
vez más
there is
de
a concentration
industriales.
of
Ojalá, yo cuando
industrials.
escucho pues, la
When
historia
I
de Francia,
heard the French
veo la historia de España,
story and
me
compared
rasgo
to
las
the
vestiduras
Spanish,
con
you
orgullo.
know,
¿No? O sea, es imposible.
it's
O sea,
impossible. It is
aquí
impossible.
tenemos un sector
There is a
que ha sido muy
sector here
depredado,
which has
pues,
been,
una
you
serie de
know,
empresas pues, han
damaging a
conseguido
number of
ir adelante.
companies that
Tenemos
were
pues,
willing
España,
to move
la
forward to
España del cerdo
progress.
y la que no tiene cerdo.
We have this Spain,
Lo
the
vemos
pig
muy
and
claramente
not pig
diferenciado.
Spain, which is quite
Entonces, mientras la industria
differentiated,
de porcina
while
siga
the pig
tirando para adelante,
industry
la generación de
production,
residuos está bastante
the
garantizada.
residue
En la otra España
production will
que
go on,
es
and the other
más
Spain,
ganado vacuno,
which is
otro tipo
more
de agro,
for the
pues
livestock,
sí,
you
está
know,
habiendo concentración de
production,
empresas.
you know, there is a
Y
concentration,
un poquito
company
es
concentration.
hacia
So,
dónde se va.
This is more or less the future.
¿Cómo se puede
So how
solucionar?
can we actually solve this?
Ahí
Well,
van a haber momentos en los
there
que,
will
en los
be
que tendremos que ya
moments
pensar en plantas
at which we will might have to think about
que
plants
sean polivalentes a
that
la hora
are,
de reducir
you
residuos.
know, multifunction plants.
Nosotros
We
tenemos
say that
unos socios alemanes que
we
llevan
have
en
some
Madrid
German
1.500
partners
plantas
that have more than 1,500
En Alemania,
plants in operation.
Son Reiter, y
The
ellos
Reiter,
han visto todo tipo de residuos, todo tipo de
they
entrada.
have
Empezaron
used,
con
you
los
know,
cultivos
different type of
energéticos, empezaron con los residuos
residue waste.
metasalas,
They
y aquí
started
no
with
vamos
the
a acabar
energy
en
crops,
campos
and
energéticos o
we
buscar
don't know,
otras
you know,
formas.
how this will
Pero
actually end
realmente,
up. So the
casi todo
truth
va
is
siempre.
that
Mientras haya
we have to
ciudades,
go
mientras
ways
haya-
by
El
ways,
tema
as
es
long as
cómo se va a
there
ir
are
generando.
cities. You know, that's the way it
Entonces,
goes. You know, the thing is
la
how
clave
this
está
will be
más en
generated.
involucrar a
So the
estos
key might be
sectores productivos
how
dentro de los
they
proyectos.
might be about
Eso yo creo que es más
engaging
clave
these
que todo lo demás, ¿no?
producers. You know, that's
Que
the key
dentro de
thing
10,
in
15
my
años, pues hay
point of
zonas
view.
de España
Perhaps in
que
15
el
years or
sector
so,
agrícola bajará
there will
en
be
las ciudades
some
y en todos los
reduction
barrios.
of
Y lo que
farming
comentaba antes Héctor, o sea, tenemos el
activity.
récord
So we have the
europeo de
European record
llevar
on
residuo orgánico al vertedero. Están pagando multas millonarias
taking
de
organic
CO2
waste to the
espectaculares,
landfill.
se
You know,
están
they are
dando, pero-
paying large
y
amounts,
realmente
large
se está
fines. You
incinerando,
know,
si se supiera todo lo que se
and
incinera,
this, who
sería
knows what
escandaloso.
is incinerated.
Somos
You know,
el
this
país
is
que más, entonces,
scandalous. You
todo
know. So
canalizar, o sea, como estamos
it
tan
is
al
about
principio,
because we are
en este
really at
país,
the very
estamos
beginning
bien.
in
Si
this
hacemos los
country.
números
So
comparamos
you
con Francia y
actually
con Alemania, aquí
calculate,
somos-
you know, and
estamos
compared
naciendo,
to Germany and
Entonces,
other countries, you
creo
realize
que
that
no me
this is
preocupa,
our
o sea,
birth.
hasta 1.500
So I'm not
plantas,
worried about, you know, up to 1,500
Llegamos
plants.
aquí,
I'm not
oye,
worrying,
de todos tenemos aquí más
how
de
much
60 ahí,
residue waste we
sería
will
fantástico.
have, you know, as long
Yo
as
estoy de
we're
acuerdo en
talking
todo lo que has
about
dicho,
1,500
pero
plants.
yo
I agree.
yo añadiría
with
una
you,
cosa.
almost
Yo
totally.
dividiría España entre
I would
España la que
divide,
tiene cerdo, la
you
que no
know,
tiene cerdo,
Spain
¿vale?
between
Y,
pig
pero luego
producing
también está el
Spain,
residuo
not
sólido
pig
urbano. Porque
producing
si
Spain,
nosotros,
but
por
then
ejemplo,
there is
queremos
another
asegurar
part
la
of the
materia
Spain,
prima,
which
sí
is
que
the
tenemos mucha
urban
materia prima en las
solid
ciudades, sí que tenemos mucho
waste,
residuo orgánico.
you know, because
Si
we do
cogemos
have
el quinto
lots of
contenedor,
it, you know.
sí que
If we
podemos
actually
llegar a un acuerdo
reach
con
the fifth
la entidad local
container,
de
you
turno
know,
para que
we
durante un
can
periodo de
reach an
tiempo
agreement
me
with the
suministra mi residuo.
locality,
Y ahí ya no
municipality,
tengo
so
que
they
tirar
can
tanto por
supply the
codigestiones
waste,
tan
you know.
complejas, que aún así
So
son
in this
codigestiones
case,
complejas
I
porque el
shouldn't,
residuo
you
sólido
know,
urbano es
go
bastante
for the
claro.
more complex
Pero no tengo que tirar por
cogeneration,
plantas tan versátiles
so
y sé que
versatile
tengo el residuo
plants,
asegurado,
because I
¿vale?
know,
De mi
you
comer,
know, the
básicamente.
waste is
Ese modelo
guaranteed.
yo creo que
I
es muy
think
bueno.
that is
Y luego
a
has
good
dicho un
model,
apunte muy
very
bueno.
good model.
50%
You should say
vertedero.
about
Pero es
50%
que
to
luego lo que
landfills,
incineramos, que no
but
es
then
poco
we
la cantidad que
incinerate, you
incineramos.
know, a large
Bien,
amount.
tenemos ahí
So
parte de residuo que todo lo que
there
se
is
incinera no es de la
some
ciudad, sino que
residues
también es
waste that it
del
doesn't come
campo.
from the
Y
city but from the
totalmente de acuerdo en
countryside. So I
involucrar
totally
al
agree with
sector
you that we
agroganadero,
need to
agropecuario en
engage,
general
you
dentro
know,
del
the agro
equity,
farming
de las plantas,
sector
pero
to the
también
plants
hacerlo
equity,
de
but
una
also we
forma
should do
lógica,
it in a
porque
logic way.
si
Logical
nosotros
way.
intentamos, por ejemplo, llegar
Because
a un
if we
acuerdo
do it, let's
con
say, we try
1000
to reach an
pequeñas
agreement with
explotaciones
1,000
ganaderas
holdings,
para
livestock
realizar un
holdings,
proyecto,
in order to carry out a
nadie,
project.
ni en mi casa,
No
ni
one,
creo en el
not
Banco
even my
Sabadell, ni
family,
nadie,
not
van a
even
autorizar
Sabadell Bank will authorize,
una
approve
SPV en la cual haya
this
1000 socios.
NSV, which, you know, more than
Nosotros creemos que
1,000
las cooperativas ahí
partners will be interested. So we believe that cooperatives will can play a very important role in order to gather, waste, residues, So, we can just knock on the door of these different cooperatives in order to seek for this collaboration, and that way the biomethane will be present in Spain. Right now, it seems that we only have volunteers. So I think there are opinions against and in favor of.
So regarding self-consumption, in some places, farmers may be spending a lot of money in fuel, and many people come to this station asking whether they could have their own plant for self-consumption. For a very small holding, for example, whether they could create their own fuel. And that means that if gas is not injected, they can use it for their own purposes. And if that gas is sold, they might get paid more than what it costs them to buy it. But if the target of the European Union is to decarbonize society and the energy, regarding the emissions of organic matter when it decomposes, and all the animal elements, the abattoirs, and all of that is creating emissions affecting climate change. And even though the energy generated by the biogas plant may be negligible, the plant needs to be built due to environmental reasons, because the emissions issued are so important, or as important as the ones of the fossil gas they replace. Why someone far from the pipeline cannot do self-consumption? Because figures do not add up. If the administration said, well, we're not help you because you're going to be a good farmer and a good citizen, and you're going to decarbonize the village where you live, I pay you so that you're not so limited. I mean, if people don't have pipes to inject, you know how the story goes. Well, maybe I can continue. But as we said before, we need to assess the whole thing. Self-consumption is yet another option. I wish things did add up, so that in the same place we could find the raw materials plus the land, the consumption of what we consume. That's a square in the circle. That's ideal. And as you were saying, that often does not happen. We do not find in the same place the raw material plus the usage of the gas we generate. And of course, we need to find other solutions. And I think one of the things that Ignacio mentioned has to do with awareness raising and decarbonization. And I think that if we speak about the positive impact in general of developing biogas plants, we'll be on the right track. And we're in a process that will help us decarbonize. We are treating waste. We're solving this waste problem with bad odors instead of demonizing a biogas plant, such as someone who's going to deal with waste. Well, we're giving a solution to that waste. And this is a way to begin talking and finding solutions altogether, to be able to develop the sector with the conditions we have in Spain. Because we know well in Total Energies how the French case is. But now we aim to develop the biogas business in Spain, we notice that we cannot apply the same recipe that we've had in France. What happened there? Well, in France, we found large companies who do waste management. So, Veolia, Papre, Suez, big companies with whom we managed to reach agreements, who treat large amounts of waste and they can develop large projects. In Spain, there are big waste stakeholders, but not as big. Another thing we find to differentiate the countries are the agricultural extensions. Here we have extensions in areas that are big, but in many others we have small holdings. So how do you get hundreds of farmers to agree to ensure the raw material? In France, we found wider agricultural areas or agricultural associations to reach agreements with them. They have been very positive because these farmers who give you the raw material are your state clients. And you notice about how positive this is and the great impact these projects have. But in Spain, we still need to find other types of solutions. But I insist on keeping an open mind because self-consumption may be a solution, but we shouldn't leave aside any other options we have on the table. We cannot say it better. Absolutely, I fully agree with everything you've said, and it's very well expressed, really. But in France, the situation cannot be compared. The markets are totally different in France and in Spain. The Spanish market has lights and shadows, and there is a problematic part for certain sectors. There may be an opportunity, an advantage for us. Regarding self-consumption, the figures do not add up. If you compare the biogas price to the natural gas price, I mean, it might not add up. But if that company has enough volume of waste and is within the EWTS for carbon dioxide emissions, they need to pay a cost for the treatment of the waste they generate. There we do not need to compare things. It's not just the cost of producing biogas and consuming natural gas. The figures are how much is going to cost to produce biogas, how much it is going to cost in the long term, how much will be the CO2 in the WTS, megawatt hour, and how much will I need to pay for treating waste. And I insist on the landfill. Right now, it's easy to take it to the landfill, and the European Commission has already warned Spain several times. So self-consumption for biogas, not just biomethane, may be attractive in certain scenarios. However, if we go to countries such as France, where we have done similar things, because we are similar companies, since we have such a powerful feed-in tariff, the justification of the plant development is not just, well, I'm going to auto-consume or inject or get that feed-in tariff, but here we have a fortune, which is a great advantage, that we have a problem. Biomethane may be the solution. It's about waste management, emissions, energy dependency, and cost. And biomethane and gas may solve these things. I think that's the big opportunity of Spain right now. Well, to continue with what Héctor is saying, it's clear to me that we need to raise awareness. And we need to raise awareness regarding the environmental benefits of biomethane. Because in Spain, they're amazing. In the Spain of the big racing, water reservoirs are polluted due to the slurry found there. And their fines, CO2 fines paid by administrations. We can ask administrations present here how much they pay for their incinerators just for not treating things properly regarding waste management. So here we have the solution to a big problem. And if biomethane did not exist, they could not convert that problem into money. What is taken to the landfill is going to be increasingly more costly. And at some point, some companies will not be feasible financially due to this, if they do not implement biomethane in their industries. So raising awareness of all of that for administrations who give the permits rather than the central government, because we cannot do anything by methane. So I invite them to create a law to speed all this up, like they do in France, and so that we could do a methane plant in a year. And this is a topic here. We have a big problem and a big solution, and that's the competitive advantage of Spain right now. Well, thank you. I fully agree. In fact, when it comes to looking at the difference between France and Spain, it's a massive difference. Planning and the way in which there is institutional support is crazy. But the positive bit is that we work with the luxury and the responsibility to have a positive system for our stakeholders regarding self-consumption. We really believe in a decentralized system to avoid logistic problems and have local support, as well as sharing benefits with the rural population. And it's an important role to play, but administrations need to indirectly support self-consumption and these kind of plans so that the figures will add up. But regarding the future, and regarding the raw material we have here, I'm super optimistic. The fact that we can avail of the practical experiences that we've seen in Denmark, in Germany, and in France to do something better than what exists right now as a model. But two things came to mind. One regarding the water reservoir pollution in a place of Spain, whose name I will not remember. They need to close the public fountains, because if there is any pipe breakage, they will get a slurry out of the town. And there was a project that was not made eventually, but farmers were saying, well, bring your slurry and you can take the digestate to fertilize your field, and start with a condition. I will take the digestate of the slurry I brought. So they need their own digester, not mixed with their neighbors' digestates. So that's pretty crazy. So there's another point that we often complain about. Maybe in France they complain less, which is permitting. They usually blame permits for everything. And those of us who have been working on this for a long time know that projects have a certain structure, certain formal structure that we need to build and follow. And for someone who hasn't had that many projects, the first thing they do think is just going to be writing on paper, and then the project is rejected. They're like, well, permitting here does not work that well. I do not know whether in France people are working this way, or whether the permitting is more agile, or whether there are lots of kamikazes who say, well, I'm going to deliver this and this is a project. Well, it's not a project. How can you do that? I was kind of missing the requests we made in all panels to speed up the administrative procedures. And to compare with France, it's not the same model. France is much more centralized. Not all countries are so centralized. So to say, I think that's all I'll say. But here there are more administrations, and they need to lead with the municipality, with the region. Then we have the permits in different administrations. And it's kind of time to work with that. And in some regions, they're working on a one-stop shop to speed up this whole thing. So that will be welcome, of course. It is an advantage. And we speak of France as the model to follow. and have shared with my colleagues quite a few things. And we have awareness rates, and they keep pressing administrations and working society to develop changes. They usually say that they're working to acknowledge digestate in certain applications as a product, not as a waste, because it's not always that clear. And they keep working with the guarantee origins, just like we did in April. And this will be an element that will help developing biomethane plants, and also to find incentives for final users. And there are several possibilities here to manage to favor developing biomethane, as it's done with biofuels. We produce biofuels, and if you force customers to have a part of their gas as renewable, you'll favor that usage. So we need to continue, just like in administrative procedures, there are areas for improvement, and everything is still to be done. Absolutely, there's room for improvement for sure. And I think the administration has found a difficult role regarding an overwhelming amount of projects and something quite new, which is affecting many administrative worlds. And there's room for improvement, but I'm sure there's no interest from the administration to hinder this. I think they're interested in getting this to advance. And regarding the guarantees of origin system, that's a great advancement. Last year we didn't have that in this event, and we can see how things evolve. So we should make the right pressure. Well, we have another project, and from the farming, from some farmers' facilities, you could see the beach, and from the beach you could see that oil plant. So the environmental impact and the assessment was asking about the landscape impact. So we made an infographic, and everything was greener, more beautiful, and much more hidden by the environment. And the civil servant was reluctant to sign. And he said, well, the new bit will look better, and the old bit, I didn't authorize it, but the new bit, I need to authorize it myself. But maybe we can leave that aside. And we also spoke about rejection this morning. I think we need to raise awareness at all levels of Spanish society, and regarding the contribution of this technology and technology management. And we often have ecology groups against, but when we speak to them, they say, we're not against, we're against how things are being done there. That's what we are against, they say. A link to having a farming concentration with 5,000 cows and thousands of pigs. Maybe you can have a biogas plant next door to treat that waste, but they turn it around and they say, well, the fact that they build the plant is what justifies that there may be that macro plant, because it's not attracting biogas. Cows should be at ease in the field, not in the stables. And I think it's going to be hard to raise awareness of these benefits. Start to avoid this, and I think we need to educate, to show them that I don't like seeing a cow in a stable, but we need to feed millions of people. It might be a necessary evil, but I'm not getting into that vegan debate. But for you, was a question that comprises everything. Rejection was a key element for this to advance much more quickly and much more softly. What was your wish list? Okay. So, to include what we've mentioned regarding the clear rules, and I don't know whether it was Nacho who mentioned it, maybe you mentioned it, but there is a gas system created to introduce gas through big pipelines and then capillarity for consumer points. But now we found that some people want to click on the network inject, and the detailed protocol 01 speaks about many things, amongst them the gas quality. And that doesn't establish which regulation, which specific regulation we should have. Some things such as analysis before implementing a plant. Does that, how much it costs? And I think that's already been mentioned. And how much it costs to have an injection bridge. And here the distributor and the carrier have their price, and then you need to agree with whoever who will need to give you the authorization for the injection point, and that's very important. We have quite a bit of baggage in France, and everything is clearer. In addition, until 2021, we have 40% of the installation cost subsidized. Now it's going to be 60%. I wouldn't ask for it to be subsidized just to get clear rules for the project not to be delayed, because I've had delays on projects, because I've had to agree with the distributor to say, well, what you're asking is this, but it really costs this much. Just charge it as something intermediate, because my project has no financial feasibility, I cannot finance it. That's something I could request. Then regarding the permitting, we can always ask for the permitting to be better. It needs to take some time, it takes some training for people in the local governments. I am your follower, by the way, Nacho, but I think that he said it, they found this. They were authorizing PV plants and so on. And all of a sudden someone said, well, we want a biomethane plant. Bio what? So you need to explain, well, am I getting in trouble? And you need to give training to those people from the administration. And Paco, I've said this in several fora. If it was possible, I wouldn't request a feed-in tariff or premium, not even CAPEX subsidies. First of all, please allow me to manufacture plants. And secondly, if we believe in biomethane and all the positive externalities and we don't want to commit, just like France is doing, because we're picturing France well as an example. We're a French group, we have most of the French biomethane. The French government right now is throwing a massive amount of money to subsidize these plants, and that needs to be sustainable in time. So I'd be happy if the natural gas marketers, such as we are, could be forced to have a small percentage of our portfolio for biomethane gas provisioning, not subsidized. And gas may be more expensive, but how much more expensive? If we have 2 plants per month with 30 gigawatts hour per year, 24 plants, and for 5 years, 720 gigawatts hour per year, that's 0.2% of the baseline demand we currently have in Spain. 5 years, that's 1%. If we have the price that I'm paying for biomethane in Spain and the gas price without considering the EWTS, that's an increase in the final invoice of between 0.6 and 0.7% for final customers. Is that a lot? Not really, because volatility, and you can look at the TTF, and look at the pricing volatility in a day, you may find pricing volatility of 2 to 4%. So if I close my price for 2024 today at 10 a.m. or at 3 p.m., the price will vary by 2%. And I cannot complain. Will I complain for a 0.6% due to all the positive externalities I may have? And with this model, we do not need to detract financial resources that may be devoted to those sectors, such as the automobile, hydrogen, and it's also sustainable in time, because someone will always be willing to pay for that and to benefit from that financially. Because developing biomethane in Spain benefits the final user, because all the environmental benefits of biomethane is left where it's developed. All those sources with a slurry that can be solved with biomethane. Okay, so our wish list, the last to Father Christmas. Well, we have quite a bit of practical experience, and I do agree that the most important bit is to have clear rules to be able to decide whether it makes sense investing and developing. And we need to look at the nuances when it comes to connecting to the gas networks, because they all have their own style and demands. But we should also understand how the industry works. The fact that we are developers, that we are people who developing projects and building projects and operating projects, we are building the full chain. And we understand we need to continue. They usually say the saying, shoemaker, stick to what you do best. And we've been told we cannot grow quickly, but what we are saying is that as a target, we need to have a small and mid-sized plants. And we want a recognition in the administration regarding the fact that we need to support these kind of plants because they have their own value locally for the surrounding village and rural environment in a way that can be anticipated indirectly with profitability of the project. Okay. So since we have several players here, I could ask a question to each of our kings here. Well, the region should wake up and smell the coffee regarding biomethane is a great environmental benefit, essential for the agricultural and agro-industry business. It will allow the continuity. In some cases, if European regulations are not met, many industries will need to close. It's about economy and environment. That's for the region, so they need to speed up the procedures. For gas companies, we need to unify things, and we do agree there should be unification when it comes to connecting, as well as clear proceedings for all companies. And last, for the central government, they should know that biomethane is essential in energy transition. And they should also increase the amount of biomethane that needs to be added in Spain with real help and real aid, such as in France or Italy. Any country will have more production than us, so they should wake up here. I mean, an electric car could spend 70 kilowatts per week. We're not noticing that there are big consumers that will need gas to produce energy for all sorts of industries, because renewable gas is as essential as electrification. The same priority and importance should be given to that. That's all from me. Thank you. Well, just to speak about infrastructures regarding my elders, I think that from the national committees we should enable the mechanisms for all those infrastructures that we need to implement regarding connections, flow networks, connection links. I think those things should not be left only to developers. In the regulatory sphere, we should at least partially reflect that. Otherwise, it will be more difficult for feasibility.
Dije, estáis
And I know
preocupados y
that
ocupados.
you are
El
worried and
tema de la formación
concerned
profesional
in
específica
this,
para
which
esto,
is
porque
vocational training,
aparte
the
de
training,
todo,
personal
cuando
training.
empecemos ya
Because
en
whenever
la
we
fase ya,
start,
esperemos que llegue pronto, ¿no?
working in
de
the
construcción y
next, the
operación,
building
lo que vemos también
operational
es que
phase,
hay muy pocos
stage,
perfiles hoy por hoy para
so
luego
far,
operar
the
plantas,
profiles,
y hay que ir pensando en esto,
suitable for
que
those
llevará también unos
plant
años
operations,
formar personal
are not so
especializado.
many. So we need a
Sí, eso quería
specialized
añadir,
personnel for this.
estamos en contacto ya con el Ministerio de
So
Educación
we have contacted the
para
educational,
definir, ayudando a definir los
department,
perfiles
educational
académicos para la formación profesional.
professional department in order to choose, the right profiles for the vocational training, So there is a dedicated training for the operators of these plants at this stage. So they should be qualified for that. And so I think that vocational training for plant managers will be launched.
Bueno, yo es que ya no tengo nada más que añadir.
I have nothing else to
Ya
say.
está.
My colleagues already
Sí.
said everything.
No, yo un poco, bueno, por...
Añadir lo que queráis.
Sí,
Unos 3 minutos podéis añadir.
You have
vale,
three
nada,
more
por
minutes.
dar la nota
Okay.
positiva. Yo creo que
I'm optimist.
lo que tenemos claro somos que
So
en el
it
potencial
is
este que nos han
clear
calculado
from us
somos el
that
tercer país
we are the
de
third
Europa
country,
con
European country
potencial, ¿no?
with
de
potential
generar
to
biogás y
generate
metano.
biogas and
Vamos a aprovechar
biomethane.
esto, lo tenemos
So
todo por
let's take
hacer.
advantage of
Entonces,
this.
tenemos la posibilidad
We
de
have so
hacer las
much to
cosas
do,
bien.
so we have the chance
Es una
to
gran
do
oportunidad
things the right way. This is an
y
opportunity
empezando
for us.
por la empresa a la que represento, ¿no?
It's
Total
beginning
Energies,
with my
pues,
company,
y otras empresas,
and
¿no?
other
Y la
companies.
parte positiva es que tenemos ganas
Positive
y
thing is
voluntad
that
de
we are
hacer cosas en
willing
España. Yo creo
to
que
do
también es muy
things and
importante,
we
¿no? Hacen
want to do
falta
things in
actores
Spain.
con ganas y
We
con
need
hojas de ruta
stakeholders
para
with
apostar
roadmaps
por el sector.
in order to
Y
commit
nosotros,
themselves
por lo
to
menos,
the sector.
por nuestra parte, no va a quedar.
So,
Y
on our
España lo
behalf,
tenemos
we are
como
going to do
un
everything we
país
can.
estratégico
Spain
para
is
el
considered
desarrollo
a
del biogás.
strategic country for
Confiamos
the
que durante los
biogas
próximos años,
development. So
se vea esto
let's
y
be
aportar
optimists
resultados.
and hope the best for the Spain,
Pues no queda
in
más que
this regard.
agradecer a la asistencia.
This is all. I will appreciate, thank the attendees and also the speakers. And the message we convey here is positive.
Porque seamos
We're
pesimistas,
not
pesimistas no organizaríamos
pessimists,
este evento.
otherwise we wouldn't organize this event. We are very optimistic indeed, and we know this is a takeoff. There is no way back. So we are just going up. So of course we are going to find some problems in the way, but we need to identify and define and look for solutions. So I really think that next year many of the problems that we identify will be solved, so almost solved. Thank you, and I think it's almost lunchtime. Thank you.